Pandemic plus. For me, two squirrels on top of a squirrel hole, on top of poop excavation, on top of a 5-foot ditch because we had bad plumbing, actually 98-year-old clay and paper plumbing that all went bad. And they dug a 5-foot ditch through the entire backyard all the way out into the driveway. I had a 14-year-old hot water heater go out, a car battery go out, a 14-year-old washer of a washer and dryer go out. Then the winter storm hit. Why not? So we lose water. So I'm introvert showering in my neighbor's house and cooking. My wife and I are trying to figure out how to cook, and that ended up in a garbage disposal explosion that took an entire night to clean up. Then the frozen pipes became unfrozen and burst in our house, in that washer room, where then we had a water event, a whole swimming experience, circa the Money Pit movie, if you've ever seen that, in our kitchen. And that has now got us to where we're going to be living outside of our house for the next 2 months. And we moved into what most people would call an Airbnb. I affectionately call it the Weed Party Crime B&B, because it's like circa old Las Vegas hotel meets frat party meets an episode of America's Most Wanted. So we, with a 2-year-old, you got to move out of that. So we moved out of that and into a whole new place, all while working 2 jobs now, which I love, but I got 2 jobs. I also, want to love on my wife some, and we're trying to start the adventure of potty training a 2-year-old. On top of that, having an abnormally large amount of people around me struggling. That's what I call pandemic plus. And all kidding aside, well, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. All those things actually did happen to us in the last 3 months. But all kidding aside, I'm sure that you feel it too. You feel the pandemic plus too. I've been talking to some leaders in the last several weeks and some community members, and it's kind of overwhelming to hear how many of you are struggling. And the way that we appear on the outside is not necessarily the way that we feel on the inside. And like the 2 squirrels for me, the low-grade darkness and exhaustion and fog came in originally like as a mosquito-like annoyance at first, and then it hung out as an unwelcome guest, and then it stayed and moved in like an actual long-term resident. And so I think that I know that struggle is very real right now for many people. And at the same time, I do get to wake up every day and watch my 2-year-old daughter be excited about every situation, every adventure. She is a bundle of joy and of hope. She's optimistic all the time if she's not crying about, not getting her way. But she seems to see the world very different than the world sees the world right now. And she seems to see the world maybe even the way God sees the world. If you're struggling, or perhaps you feel alone, fatigued, out of gas for being resilient, we want to help however we can. And so I would just say right now, email us, reach out to us, hello@historic.church. It's on the screen. Number one, you need to know you're not alone. And lastly, you need to know that you're not wired to do it alone. remember this, that especially in moments of struggle, moments that are hard like this, emotions can and do lie. And it's super important to do the thing you know to be true, even if you don't feel like doing it. I'm going to say that again. Do the thing you know to be true, even if you don't feel like doing it. Because you are loved, even if you don't feel loved. There is hope, even if you can't feel hope. You do have a future, even if you don't see your future. And the best thing you can do with darkness, with that fog, is to bring it into the light. That is to tell someone. The way through struggle is through community. I'll say that again. The way through struggle is through community. Isolation is a dangerous place right now, and I got to tell you, I struggle with it. And many times, admitting your struggle to others is the first time you'll admit it to yourself, and that's a healing step to take. So definitely break the silence before the silence breaks you. Break the silence before the silence breaks you. We follow, or at least I'm asking you to consider following a leader. His name is Jesus. Don't think of him as the weird, over-spiritual thing that you've maybe been introduced to through organized, crazy, off-base religion. Just think of him as the outcast, marginalized, advocate, lover of people, lover of the rejects, the last, the lost, the lone. Like, think of him in that context, because that's who he was. And he would tell you he got to experience one of the loneliest moments maybe of any human in history, where he's hanging literally on a cross. And all of his friends have sold him out. And all of his enemies are the ones that put him up there. And in that moment, I want you to know that he had you in mind, you and me. He had love in mind in this movement, this cause of love. And he stayed resilient. He saw, even though I guarantee you, he did not feel like being there. He did not feel like doing what he was doing, but he knew that was the truth, that was the right, that was the way to go. And so he chose that. And he modeled for us how to be human in these kinds of moments. When it's good, it's good, and when it's great, it's great, and when it's easy. But man, when it's hard, that's the moment, right? When it's struggle, that's the moment. And, the Father God, the Creator God, I have to tell you, man, the God of love, which was introduced to the world with the backdrop of all these gods of dominance and hate and slavery. I mean, all the things that other gods represented in the moment. This God of love was introducing a new way, an unconditional way, a fresh way. And that God sees you, the way he sees the world, the way he sees you is worth it. He sees you, and he sees this movement that he started, that he created, this movement of love and human flourishing and hope. And he realizes it's all worth fighting for. It's all worth being resilient for, even if that movement of love has had many rises and falls, right? Many struggles, because he wants to co-partner with humans. And, we all mess it up sometimes. We all give it up sometimes. We all struggle. We all are defeated. The movement has had losses, taken many losses, gone haywire. It's gone off the rails because we've gone off the rails and haywire at times. But he still looks at us and says, this is so worth it. This is where I'm all in. God never rests in loving us. Isn't that amazing? Never rests and gives up on us. And that's showing us the way to live, especially in these moments. So, let's not let the pandemic plus convince us. Let's stick together and stay resilient. That's it, and that's all. I hope this was encouraging. Grace, peace, and much love.